Prepare for the STAAR test in 2024 by analyzing trends found in the 2023 release tests. In this video, you can discover the key insights from the 2023 released reading test, including item types and TEKS trends, explore overall patterns and grade-specific trends, easily navigate to your grade level by using the table of contents in the description. Watch this video for a detailed breakdown and valuable guidance to prepare and pass the 2024 test. Angela here from Custom Classroom. Just a quick reminder, I'm not affiliated with TEA or STAAR. This is my opinion as a test prep writer and educator. Let's begin with an overview of all the item types that appeared on the 2023 reading release tests. As expected, a majority of the questions were still multiple choice. On average, 88% of the item types were still multiple choice, similar to previous versions of STAAR. But there were a few that showed up in every grade level, like multi-select, where students have to pick more than one correct answer. Also, SCR and ECR were found on every single test. I was surprised to find that only one hot text appeared, even though it is said that it would be tested in 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade. I also started to look at the actual TEKS that were tested in reading, and every single test, the most commonly appearing TEK was making connections or specifically comparing text, which is not surprising since every single test will have a paired passage that students have to analyze. When I looked a little bit closer at specifically the revising and editing TEKS, I found that every single test had a lot of questions on that focused on revising specifically. And then a pretty popular trend was also focusing on organizational standards such as introduction, conclusion, transitions, etc. Now let's look closer at the trends I found within each individual grade level. I strongly recommend seeing all the grade levels because it gives you a good picture of kind of what's happening through the years, but you can always skip to specifically look at your grade level. My major takeaway in 3rd grade here was the fact that there was no hot text or inline choice. There was just one of each new item type. So students in 3rd grade didn't see a lot of a variety in their test compared to previous years. Now, if we look specifically on reading here, in addition to the comparing text, students were more frequently asked about inferencing, key ideas, text evidence, theme, and character. Looking at editing and revising, a winner was looking at just revising a sentence. All right, in 4th grade here, again, there was no hot text, but we did find one of each of the other new item types. Looking at reading, in addition to comparing texts, students had to determine meaning of words, find inferences, summarize text, plot questions, as well as figurative language. In editing or revising, there was a strong emphasis on specifically revising as well as organization. In 5th grade, here we saw no multi-part, which is very surprising. This was the only test that had the hot text. And then multi-part, which is like part A, part B, is a pretty commonly used standardized test question. And so I found it very surprising that there was not one here in 5th grade, but they did have 2 inline choice and 2 multi-select. The 5th grade reading standards, in addition to comparing text, focused strongly in on key ideas, text evidence, and text structure. In the revising and editing, there was by far more revising of a sentence questions found. Looking at 6th grade here, there was no multi-part, which was surprising to me because this type of question where there's a part A and then you have to answer part B, it's a very common standardized test question, but there was not one found in 6th grade, but there were 2 multi-select. Looking specifically at the 6th grade reading standards, in addition to comparing text, there was a focus on inference, text evidence, summarizing, and plot. In the revising and editing, there was a bit more of a balance here. In addition to revising, it had organization, fact and detail, and complete sentences. Seventh grade had one of all the new item types, which I found was interesting because not many of them did. And here, when you look at reading specifically, in addition to comparing text, there was a focus on inference, summarizing, and mood, voice, and tone. Revising and editing focused again on that revising and organizational piece. In eighth grade, there was no multi-part, which is where students answer part A and then follow it up with a related, usually text evidence in part B, which is a pretty standard, common, standardized test question. And the other surprising thing here in eighth grade was there were two short constructed responses, which was very uncommon. There was one on reading and one in the editing or revising portion. Eighth grade reading, in addition to comparing text, focused on inference, text evidence, summarizing, and author's purpose. In revising and editing, in addition to the revising teak, it also had quite a few organization and then complete sentences. In ninth grade, there was one of every new item type and also two short constructed responses, which was there were only ninth grade and eighth grade had two, where they had one in reading and one followed up in the editing or revising portion. In reading here, I had a bit of a balance. So, in addition to comparing two texts, there was a wide range in kind of the other um, common teaks that popped up. So inference was the next biggest winner, but then there was word meaning, key ideas, text evidence, author's purpose, author's structure, the author's language, and then mood, voice, and tone. And then its revising and editing had mostly revising, but then some organization and punctuation questions. 10th grade did not have an inline choice, which I thought was kind of surprising that as you get in these upper grades, there's not an example of each type of item type. And there were two multi-part where you had to do answer part A and then follow up with supporting text on answer part B. I was kind of surprised there weren't two short constructed response here, that there was only one in the editing or revising. I would have expected to see one in the reading portion as well. In the reading teaks here, in addition to comparing two texts, there was a focus on inferencing, and then shortly followed after, text evidence, summarizing, author's purpose, and then mood, voice, and tone. And in editing or revising, there was the revising section as well as some organizing and punctuation. So after all of that, kind of my main takeaways here are really work on comparing text. Every student's going to see two passages that they then have to compare and analyze. Also, really take the time to directly teach how to fully develop a short constructed response answer, and more specifically, an extended constructed response, because these are so new, and every single student in third grade through 10th grade will see one of these questions. And then the final piece is to focus a lot on, when you're editing and revising sentences. So where they're really looking at that whole sentence and making corrections, not just picking out a tiny piece or a grammatical error. So if you're looking for some pre-made, easy to use STAAR practice in these areas, make sure to click the link in the description to my TPT store where you can find ready-made STAAR resources. I hope you found this video helpful. Good luck with your test prep.